Shall we begin?
Yes. All right, guys. Welcome back. After what seems like forever, because everyone's been going back to work. I started a new job. Um, Cody, you were on vacay, sailing around the world, and time just got away from us. I'm telling you, that new job's kind of kicking my butt, guys. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I've only been on back on the job like 3 weeks, 2 weeks if you count school being in session. We just finished our second week, but it feels like I have been there forever.
already a semester.
hmm
Well, I know we missed Officer and a Gentleman last week because Nick and I were both just like, look, I didn't get in until late. I had a flat tire, or was that the week before last?
That was
I
the
don't.
week before last, but that's why we're doing a double feature this weekend.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
days, my time's running together. But anyway, we are. This is this is this closing out our summer of '82,
Mm,
or is
This
it
is
I
going to
would
be
closing
probably
our
say
summer of '82 season.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, hey, this is closing out our summer season, guys. And you know what next month is? You know what September is around here? It is
Hmm.
spooky season. That's what we call it. It's our tailgate warm up.
We're
So
we're pre-gaming Halloween now.
yes, last year.
Yep. I mean, Spirit of Halloween's already open.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
If we can
have
have
any of you?
Christmas for 4 or 5 months, we can have Halloween for 2.
Oh, okay. I gotta ask: have either of you seen the Spirit Halloween movie?
I
Is it
haven't
out?
seen the movie. I saw the trailer.
Yeah, I'm willing to give that a shot.
Wow, I didn't even know they had a trailer out.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
Christopher
already out.
Lloyd and Rachel Lee Cook and some
Wow.
children.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. I'll have to give that a look. See.
Yeah,
Well, anyway, we are here tonight on this. I almost said Friday. See, my days are skewed. On this Saturday evening,
yeah,
closing our summer of 1982 with uh, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Excuse me, folks, and
yes.
The Secret of Nim. Both. Well, I don't want to say both great movies. I know one of them is a really great movie, and I'll go ahead and say Nihm. Um, Fast
My
Times is a hit or miss, and we'll get into that. I think after my last watch a couple of days ago, I don't. I mean, yeah, there are some issues with it, but it wasn't as bad as I remember it being. So, but we can get into that. Uh, which one would you guys like to get into first?
I'd like to start with Fast Times because I have opinions on that.
All right, so I'll let you guys go ahead and discuss your opinions because I actually love this movie and think it's just as important as American Graffiti and Dazed and Confused for the careers it launched and of a coming of age story. It's very similar to those two films.
Well,
It is. And after I went back and the two issues that I had or that I thought were kind of oogie before, I guess I had just taken them out of context because again, when you go back and you eliminate the two people, the two, and I'll call them loudmouths because it's the two people that these kids are getting advice from who think they are a lot older than they are and probably shouldn't be giving this advice. But you're right. I mean, there were older kids or kids in my grade that I don't want to say I looked up to, but they definitely gave out that advice. And you always thought that they were older than they were. They had more experience, even though they were probably just full of
Ah.
shit. So,
They both are. And
oh yeah, most definitely.
when I watched this the first time at 12 or 13, I did not think that about Phoebe Cates because as a 12 or 13 boy, I was just infatuated by Phoebe Cates. But watching it as an adult, I'm like, well, I think Phoebe Cates is full of shit, and I don't think anything she says is true. I think everything she's saying she is fabricated. Even this boyfriend that lives in Chicago.
Right.
Oh,
Who's a male stewardess or a flight attendant or something or a pilot.
Dates a 16-year-old girl. Yeah, come on.
well, keep in mind we lived in East Texas, and well, oh God, I've known more than a few girls who've bragged about dating guys in their 20s, which thinking about it now as an educator is just creepy AF. I watched that movie for the first time last night, and I think I don't have the gift of hindsight, having watched it as a teen, watching it as an adult now instead of being introduced to it as a teenager, because a lot of those times I watch this and I see like all the characters doing their thing, and I'm like, oh God, no, don't! Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you definitely, because I hadn't watched it in a long time. Like the last time I watched, I was in my 20s. I was in college probably the last time I watched it, so I was closer to their age. You know, I still wouldn't date a high school girl. That's oogie. But you know, I don't know, and even then, like, it felt weird. Like that older dude, you know,
The guy from the stereo store.
The guy who ordered the pizza and she went on a date with.
Yeah, the 26-year-old dating a 15-year-old. You know. But that's all I saw. I had seen it before that, and then I went back and watched it again, and it still felt kind of oogie. It was cool. I liked the music, and I agree with you, Cody. I think it's probably as important as American Graffiti, because I mean, you do see little Nicholas Coppola in the background in a shot, and you know, you see all these.
He's one of Judge Reinhold's friends, and the funny thing about that side note with Nicolas Cage, who was Coppola then, you know, he famously changed his name to Cage because he didn't want to be connected to his famous family. But apparently Judge Reinhold said the whole time while they were filming, he was bragging about how his uncle was this famous movie director, and that's why he got to be in the movie, is because of his famous uncle.
Probably, yeah. But then I guess Nicolas Cage must have kind of realized he sounded a little bit like an asshole when he did that. So
you also got a very young Forrest Whitaker here as the
football player.
And of course, I would say probably next to Nicolas Cage and Forrest Whitaker, the hugest career that came out of this was Sean Penn.
Oh yes,
as Spicoli, and you know, like that character became an archetype for every coming of age comedy. There would be no Slater from Dazed and Confused without Spicoli.
Bill and Ted too.
Yeah.
Just from the way they talk and act. I mean, they're two Spicoli knockoffs. I love them, but yeah, Spicoli was.
Granted, I wish the real Sean Penn was more like Spicoli, but.
Well, yeah, but I think he just kind of got he was probably a little bit mad for a while because he was typecast for, like, people saw him as Spicoli for a while.
So Nick, you talk about watching this for the first time as a grown man and as a teacher. So how did you feel about Ray Walston's performance as Mr. Han?
He's a dick.
So you didn't think it was funny when he's like, I'm coming, he comes to Spicoli's house and be like, you wasted 8 hours of my time, so now I'm going to waste some of your time.
I did actually. Yeah, it was a dick move, but I actually found that kind of funny. Like,
it was funny, but yeah, definitely a dick move. And I've seen so many professors over the years who have absolutely zero empathy with the students, and it's a very very old school way of thinking. A lot of there are a lot of teachers out there who think we should go back to that, but I kind of respectfully disagree. I kind of want
I
us. I am of the philosophy of teaching the person and not just the subject.
I hate to say it, but if you went back to that, if teachers went back to that, there might be a rise in. I don't even want to say the word, but let's just say gun violence in schools. Like, I think there would,
Yeah.
because it's just different, and I'm not saying that in a boomer way. I'm just saying times are different. You can't treat people like that. I mean, you shouldn't, even kids.
Well, it would probably. I mean, I think a lot of the kids would would have kind of agreed with you back then, even back then. But then again, they adults kind of dismiss them so much. Like, it's like, what do you know? You're a kid. He's the teacher. He knows best. So just shut up and do what he says.
Well, look what the adults were overlooking in Dazed and Confused. All the hazing and the stuff that they running kids down and paddling them, and adults are just looking the other way, like, oh, it's silly fun. We went through that, and
It's it's I kind of think of that way of thinking as backward, but it's it's to me that kind of thought is more like values. I like the science teacher a lot better.
Yeah, he's fun. I forget that actor's name, but he was a famous character actor. Was in a slew of movies.
I think he's a stand-up comic too. Let me check right quick.
But yeah, Mr. Hand was a dick, but I do think Ray Walston is hilarious in the role as the teacher.
Vincent Schiavelli.
Yes. He's the train ghost in Ghost, and he was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he was one of the Penguin's goons in Batman Returns. I mean, he was just in a ton of stuff.
I think he passed and is buried in Italy. I know that's an odd.
Yes, he is passed.
He died in 2005.
Okay. We watched Celebrity, or what is it? Hollywood Graveyards. And this guy travels across the U.S. and he does a little bio on celebrities that are buried there, and it's pretty neat. And he covered him. He did an overseas special, and I want to say he's buried in Italy. And it's weird he came up because it just popped into my head. But
do you guys know how this movie came to be?
Yes, actually, it's. I kind of wish I would see this as an almost famous sequel, because that would just. Okay, but here, the story goes. Cameron Crowe actually graduated high school like before he turned 15, and he was already established as a writer for Rolling Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And after years of writing all these awesome articles, he kind of hit a slump. So he ended up going undercover at a different high school and seeing how high school culture has changed since the short time that he was in it. And ended up writing the book that became the screenplay for Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I kind of would like to see what the book does and see how it differs.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same structure, but I'm sure it's a little more detailed and different. But it follows, these specific teenagers, so it's the Jennifer Jason Leigh character, the Phoebe Cates character, the Judge Reinhold, the Sean Penn, and then the guy that works at the movie theater, who of course has a crush on Jennifer Jason Leigh, and then the other guy who thinks he's too cool for school, the ticket scalper guy.
Oh, Robert Romanus is the actor's name.
Yeah. Which I like. He did a good job with him.
Yeah.
Like, he's a total car salesman, like sleazy type, but and he thinks he's cool, but he's not.
Other than the Sean Penn character, what I do like about this movie is that it's kind of like the anti-John Hughes movie, and it's not like portraying these kids as they're in cliques. It's just like, let's watch a couple of just high school students and a year in their life and see what it's like.
Yeah, I could get behind that, but I think that's what kind of gets me as why the movie doesn't really speak to me. I mean, another reason is because there really isn't that much defined arc. I mean, there's a little bit of conflict, but not by that much. It's more.
There's not a lot of plot in this movie. It's basically like, we're just going to follow these people's lives for a year, and then that's the end of the
shenanigans.
Yeah, it's a hangout movie. P.T. Anderson apparently was really influenced by this for Licorice Pizza.
And I can kind of see with the soundtrack, like, which, by the way, has a killer soundtrack.
Oh yes,
it's got a great soundtrack.
As a movie, it has an awesome. Well, that's because, again, Cameron Crowe, a writer for Rolling Stone, he knows how music works.
Right.
Say what you will about him as a filmmaker and screenwriter, but the man knows music.
Absolutely. What I think is kind of sad, though, is that because Amy Heckerling did a great job with this movie, and besides this and Clueless, she has two of the most influential coming-of-age movies ever made, but it's kind of sad she didn't end up getting the career that eventually Cameron Crowe would get as a filmmaker. And I think a funny thing, when they did a screening of this with P.T. Anderson, he asked her, like, how'd you make this at 90 minutes when I was like struggling to get my movie at 2.5 hours? And she's like, well, if there was a part that was boring in the movie, I just cut it out.
That seems too obvious, but that reminds me of the deleted. There's on the UHF DVD, Weird Al does this hosting thing for all the deleted scenes in the movie, and he says, "You know why we would delete that scene? Because it sucked."
But apparently Universal didn't even pay attention to this movie while it was being made until Porky's, which came out the same year. And then they were,
wow.
I thought it was a year earlier.
Very much interested in this movie, and then they're like, "Well, it's not sexy enough." But they also made Amy Heckerling make choices, because it is kind of surprising. There's a full frontal male nude shot in this. It's like for only a second, but because it was supposed to be both of them, and then Amy Heckerling made the decision to do the male instead of the female side of it.
I kind of respect her choice, and it's funny that you mentioned that she did Clueless, because out of between Fast Times and Clueless, I think Clueless is the better movie.
It is a stronger film. It's also, basically Emma, but set in a modern era.
Yeah. Also, didn't she do Wayne's World?
No, that's Penelope.
Okay, yes, yeah.
She did Look Who's Talking.
Oh, okay.
I like Look Who's Talking. Basically, yeah. Bruce Willis just with his moonlighting monologue in a baby.
Yeah,
That could have only been made in the 80s with its premise and its
We
stars.
very much so.
my mom's friend we went with her to see it, and I just remember like the opening scene, like what's going on, uh, and then she like, I guess it starts with a lovemaking scene. So I just remember her like her whole arm just reaching over and covering up like my eyes, and the tip of her hand reaching over and covering up my friend's eyes. And I was like, that's weird. My parents usually just like fast forward it.
Oh, actually,
Isn't
it
the
did.
opening of Look Who's Talking the sperm like traveling?
Yeah, and
Yes,
they're all
traveling
like,
through the fallopian tubes. It's like
Yeah.
sex ed in 5 minutes.
they're all like, hey guys, come on,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
going, and then Bruce Willis is just wisecracking, and it's actually, you're right. It probably could have only been made in the '80s, but it's still a pretty clever movie. I thought it was
And I
pretty.
think it just shows how good a director she is at comedy too, that she knows you got to keep it fast, you got to keep it moving, you can't
Right.
linger.
Yeah,
Which is
I will
something
say
you could
this.
say Cameron Crowe's guilty of as a director in some of his films.
Yeah, I kind of think, especially with Almost Famous, which was kind of a love letter to that era that he grew up in. It it was a different kind of feel. It worked for him. Like, I actually prefer watching the director's cut, the
Me too.
untitled. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot better.
But I think that's just circumstances where it benefits him. But like some of his later films, it maybe feel a little more bloated, where that one doesn't because it's from personal experience.
yeah. I think the last one I saw was Elizabethtown, and um, I mean, it was okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't watch Aloha. That one's not great.
Ooh,
Not
they
counting the whole Emma Stone is part Hawaiian subplot, but just the
No,
movie in general was kind of a mess. We Bought a Zoo's not bad. The Matt Damon movie he did.
I didn't know that. I don't know that was him.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, I probably would say his best, like his magnum opuses, would probably be um, Almost Famous and Vanilla Sky.
yeah. Vanilla Sky is very underrated. I
I've seen
like Jerry Maguire for what it is, and I really like Say Anything. Even though if you're watching, if your significant other dumps you, do not go to their house and blast music outside their bedroom window. That's creepy
Yeah.
and not
No,
cool.
no.
Not romantic.
And then of course, then there's that whole subplot of her father consistently getting in trouble for embezzling.
Yeah, there's the whole dad in trouble with the IRS subplot.
Yeah, and it was kind of the start of the whole nice guy trope, which, you know, again, hasn't aged well.
No, hasn't aged well, even though that is one of the more seminal,
Yeah.
romantic comedy slash coming of age films. But, it was made in 1989, and we now know, like, some of the things that were in that movie are not cool.
Yeah, I do like the one line. Don't be a guy. The world is full of guys. Be a man.
But yeah, I think even though this movie is not the strongest in plot, I do think it is above average of a teenage comedy of that, especially of that era.
Right.
I think that's also because of the cast and how they worked against each other. I think that is definitely a plus in its favor, because this was a Judge Reinhold, like Beverly Hills Cop was like 2 years away, wasn't it?
Yep, the first Beverly Hills Cop is 2 years away. So is
Yeah,
Gremlins, which also
yeah,
has Phoebe Cates and Judge Reinhold. And let me
yes,
say, maybe by her choice, but I feel like Phoebe Cates should have been a bigger star than she was.
She should have been, but after she had kids, she essentially retired from public life. And last I heard, she runs this boutique in New York City, but she doesn't even have any social media.
Nope.
Huh.
Married to Kevin Kline.
That's a age gap.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's about 14, probably about a 14 to 15 year age difference.
I mean, I guess they're adults.
Sorry,
Whatever.
hold on in just a second.
Now, if he like robbed the cradle,
Well, she was over 18 by the time this movie came out, which I guess is good since they have her be topless.
Oh yeah, the she just turned 18 when she started filming that.
Wow. Jeez. Hollywood.
Just a bit, but she was already a model. Yeah, which is probably one of the reasons why she was cast as in the movie in the first place.
Yeah, there's a podcast called "You Must Remember This" by Ryan Johnson's wife. Her name's Karina Longworth. She used to be a film critic.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a whole series on 80s erotic thrillers, and she talked about this movie and Porky's and like how popular this movie was and how it was kind of the anti-Porky's, and also how probably young male viewers ruined Amy Heckerling's what she was doing in the so-called scene that Phoebe Cates is in, because she kind of obscures that male gaze and then makes fun of it by having Phoebe Cates walk in on Judge Reinhold and his whole little fantasy he's having.
Yeah, that in itself is a little bit creepy too.
Oh, it's still creepy, but
Yeah.
you know, just imagine how that scene would have played out had a man directed it.
Just a bit. Yeah, well, we all know how it would have played out. It's called American Pie.
Yep. But before we move on to Secret of the Nihm, I guess a movie we'll all be in more agreement with. Lindsay, are you there? Do you have thoughts on this movie, or even that it was directed by a woman in 1982, which that didn't usually happen back then?
she stepped out, so
Ah.
she I think she's going to be back here in a little bit.
All right, so yeah, I would say my final thoughts as a movie, it had an awesome soundtrack and it launched a lot of really big careers. I'm not, but as far as any rewatch value, it's one of those, if it's on, I'll probably watch a few minutes of it, but I will not actively seek it out.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the better coming of age movies, and I think personally, not only did it help launch Cameron Crowe and Amy Heckerling's film careers amongst the actors who are in it, but I think it's up there with American Graffiti and Dazed and Confused.
And some things that I noticed as well. It didn't show. It didn't. You know, the girl got pregnant, and
Oh yeah,
she made a choice, and it was like a matter of fact type of. I hate putting it that way. They didn't make it a huge like dramatized.
They didn't Juno it
in the movie, exactly.
yeah.
And you know, the brother like sees her run across the street, and he turns around and follows her, and he's waiting in the parking lot.
That's a good big brother moment too.
He's a brother. He's a good brother.
And he was supportive and was like, "Hey, you hungry? Let's go get some of the, you know."
Yeah.
So, you know, he didn't fly off the handles, and I'm gonna kill somebody.
Who's that guy? I'm gonna beat him up. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell, you know, mom and dad or whatever.
No, but But he did get some shaming though.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I have to. I'm leaning more towards agreeing with you, Cody, about it being a really like a better coming of age story uh, than some of the other '80s, teen
I
movies.
would say, you mentioned American Pie, Nick. I would say this is a better movie than American Pie.
Oh,
You know what? I'll agree with you there, but I think the thing American Pie had going for it was a lot of the sex humor and a lot of the gross out humor, and it's I've only watched American Pie 2. I never bothered with any of the sequels after that.
I mean, it's more of the same.
It's like
Eugene Levy is the secret MVP of those movies.
pretty much, yeah. Like get any SCTV alum in anything. It's like they're pretty much gonna carry a lot of the movie. Like look at Joe Flaherty with Freaks and Geeks.
Oh yeah,
that was a great show.
Yeah,
that
I
was a
bought that.
great show.
I have that.
That also launched a lot of careers.
Yeah,
yeah. All right, so
but yeah,
any
those are my thoughts. I like it after the rewatch. I'll probably rewatch it maybe sometime next year. I might. I don't know. It was good. I liked it. Killer soundtrack.
It's a very strong directorial debut. It's just kind of sad her career didn't go where it should have gone after that. And
Right.
the movie was a huge
yeah.
success. Like people kept going back to the theaters to watch it when it came out.
Yeah, that's I will give you that. It Amy Heckerling is she's got chops. All right, and speaking of directors with chops, let's get on to another directorial debut, Don Bluth's Secret of Nim.
Yes, another
Yes.
great directorial debut, possibly still his best movie, maybe? Question mark.
I would
I,
it's yeah, it is probably one of his best. I would say American Tail is a very close second.
this is a second to me. American Tail is my jam. That whole story is just gorgeous. From the animation to the music, the score, the songs, the animation. We
Mhm.
watched it. I watched it a Blu-ray not too long ago, and it was just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Like from start to finish. And as an adult, like I'm still loving the story, but again, it's that animation that I look for all the little details and the man. That dude, we were talking about the sparkles and the secret of Nim in the opening when he's riding with that magic ink and
Oh
just
yeah.
all of the the light and the way he does the light and the I mean, it's gorgeous, and I'll stop because I'm just gonna keep repeating myself.
Well, it's a beautifully done film, and what's interesting about Don Bluth is you guys know he used to work at Disney, right? During the
He
whole
is a Disney
You
expat.
can see
yeah.
his work, his contributions.
But I would argue in the 1980s, he kind of dominated over Disney. Of course, this is during Disney's little dark period time. They don't
Yeah,
really.
Disney had a really was going through a really big slump at the time. I think they were still trying to make Black Cauldron at the time, which when it finally did come out, it flopped,
Hmm.
but and it almost sunk the animation studio, and Great Mouse Detective kind of kept it afloat.
Yeah, which I like both of those films very much, and I love The Great Mouse Detective. But I, I mean, this has got to be one of the best animated films of the '80s, period of all time. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like Don Bluth showed up, came to play, gave 110% and left every single shred of it on the field. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but Secret of Nim is the screen debut of Will Wheaton and Shannon Doherty.
Oh
yeah.
wow, I did notice their voice credits, and I was wondering if that was both of their
They
film
were
debut.
Mrs. Frisbee's kids.
Yeah, was is Will Wheaton the sick kid, or is he the other son?
He was the rambunctious kid, the one who wanted to start fights all the time.
Oh, okay. Speaking of voice work, I think Derek Jacobi's voice work here as Nicodemus is top notch.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Actually, the funny thing is, like Elizabeth Hartman, her voice work was incredible. So much that of course, for those of you who don't know, Secret of Nim, there's the main character is the widow of a mouse named Jonathan Brisby. Yeah, she's always referred to by Mrs. Brisby. She is never given a first name. Her
Nope.
fans named her after the voice actress Elizabeth.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting that she's never given a name, and it could be due to the nature of what this movie is about, because I don't think we even meet a female rat in this society of these super intelligent rats, right? They're all males.
Well, in the society, yes, there are other female characters, but
Yeah.
not they're not as prominent as Mrs. Frisbee was.
Right, we have her, is it her aunt or her
No,
what?
it's just a nosy neighbor, I think.
The nosy neighbor? Okay, we
Yeah,
have her. We have the farmer's wife, which I
and
forget.
I think she also has a daughter. That was the
Right,
Shannon Doherty
there's
character.
at least a daughter, maybe two daughters, because Shannon Doherty obviously voiced one of the daughters.
Hmm. But yeah, that's about it. And also, um, this movie is darker than what Disney has came out with at the time. Like,
Oh, for
as
sure.
I remember reading that Don Bluth was trying to go for a PG rating.
Really? And he still got a G.
He still got a G. What like there's a scene where two rats fight to the death,
Uh-huh.
and one of them says "damn."
Wow, it just
Like,
just shows you how different the rating system was to now, because I don't even know if we even have any more really G movies anymore. I'm pretty sure most
the
animated
most
films now are PG.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like PG is pretty much the new G. But
Yeah.
I think the closest I've seen is probably maybe Disney nature films.
Yeah.
I think those still get G ratings, but other than that, most family movies are just straight up get a PG. So it's pretty much back to how it's a different version of how things were in the 70s and early 80s, because back then it was just G, PG, and R.
Yeah, and now the new G's are PGs, and what used to be PG is PG-13, and then anything that falls different after that's R.
Yeah. Yeah, which this is a rant for another time, but the to me, I've seen way too many people try to say, "Oh, it's like this director needs an R rating." He might have, but to me, it feels like those kinds of fans are trying way too hard to broadcast how adult they are.
And really, they're not that adult. They just think everything should be super dark and super serious, and that's not every movie.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you can
we
make
get it. You like
PG-13.
Joker.
Yeah. But I mean, look at the recent Batman movie and The Dark Knight. I mean, those are PG-13. Those are almost R rating, but like they did it to where they didn't get the R rating and they didn't need it.
Yeah, I believe that. And also, there is a world of difference between adult and mature.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would definitely call Batman v Superman a movie for adults, but definitely not mature.
Well, no, when you scream your mother's name and then everybody, oh, I guess we can be friends now because our moms have the same names.
uh,
Yeah, that movie was trying it was trying so hard to take itself seriously, and the more it tried to take itself seriously, the more I couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah, I take
I
this movie more seriously. The stakes are much more there, the drama's there, and they do it at what, 80 something minutes?
Yeah. Well, also, this was a time when hand-drawn animation was still a pretty arduous task, and every single cell in Secret of Nim is just plain gorgeous.
Absolutely. This movie holds up. The
he,
animation holds up. This was one of my childhood favorite movies. It still is one of my favorite movies. I just love every bit of this movie
he
from.
didn't have to illustrate that hard for us, but he did. He went that far.
Well, he wanted to uh, in all fairness, Don Bluth had something to prove back then because, I mean, like I said, he just quit Disney, and Disney was kind of falling to the wayside. And I think at the time, the only other non-Disney animator that most people could think of, and it's kind of pretty obscure, was Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah, which his was definitely more skewed adult.
Yeah, I mean, Fritz the Cat. That was that
Wasn't
was
that
definitely
X?
it. Okay,
Yeah,
I
it's
it was
rated.
an X-rated movie, but really, you watch it by today's standards, it's a very soft R.
Okay. I
Yeah,
haven't seen it. I just know of it.
yeah,
His movie um, American Pop is really good. That's
I've
a
seen
great
that one,
yeah.
and I've seen Wizards.
I saw Hey Good Looking, and that was you, the the animation was good, but it kind of lacked the whole storyline. It was one of those things that tried to deconstruct 50s nostalgia, but um, it was fine. It was a fine movie.
Yeah, but I mean, this launches Don Bluth. You know, like you said, he had left Disney. He had to prove something. He basically started his own production company,
Yeah,
and this was a hit. And he pretty much dominated, I think, American animation for the decade. Up
yeah,
and
it was up until the Disney Renaissance.
yep, I guess Little Mermaid smashed All Dogs Go to Heaven. They came out the same year.
Yeah, they did, and also, again, Don Bluth really likes to go some dark places that Disney was afraid to do at the time.
Hmm.
Like those scenes of animal testing, like they do not mess around. Like there's at least one Don Bluth scene that has traumatized anyone who grew up in the 1980s.
Yeah, yeah, this movie's got a lot of darkness going on with not just the animal testing. Her son might die. Her husband has passed. Like you said, there's a fight with two rats to the death. I
Yeah,
mean,
like several rats kind of murder each other.
the whole owl sequence is nightmarish too, when she goes to speak to the owl.
Yeah. Uh,
So with the owls, I got very what movie?
Are you thinking of the Zack Snyder animated owl movie?
Oh,
No,
the
no,
owls of
no. This
Ga'Hoole.
is Rockadoodle.
Oh
That's
yeah,
another Don Bluth movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. I think they recycled some owl there, but I also like that movie. So
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, that's
But
a
I would say again, a lot of his early stuff, especially that 1, 2, 3 punch of Secret of Nim, Land Before Time, and American Tail, like those were him bringing his A game.
yeah. Yeah, those are pretty untouchable movies, those first three. And yeah, there's a bit of a wane in quality in the 90s. I've never seen Thumbelina or a Troll in Central Park. Pebble and the Penguin's not that great. I
Well,
think All
there's
Dogs
also
Go.
didn't he have at least direct the Dragons Lair game?
He did. He did design that, which is a very huge, popular video game at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I played a little bit. It was hard.
yeah. I think that video game still gets praised for its graphics and animation that were done, and that was in the 80s.
Hmm. Well, it was also one of the. It's like it was one of those things that had the virtue of never having been tried, and um, I would say there wouldn't be another game like it, but um, but that's also because video games have evolved into such a um, uh, there's been so much evolution in that time, and there's been so much evolution in filmmaking and in animation.
well,
Unfortunately,
they're
oh
just interactive movies now.
Yeah.
They've just grown into uh, interactive movies that you are a part of and play.
yes, thank you. That's what I was trying. Because I mean, Dragon's Lair was basically an interactive movie, but there is still a little bit of like player immersion, I guess. I'm, I'm trying to think of a word, but I can't quite think of what it is. Anyway, it'll come to me. Uh, let's see what other thoughts does anybody have on on this movie?
Well, I think I mean, it's it's gorgeous animation. Again, I think really it might actually be. It holds second because Land Before Time would have to be number three because again, it's a gorgeous movie, and
Yeah,
um, but yeah, it's beautiful. It's a great story. It's it pushed the boundaries with an animated movie for its
yeah,
time, I think, and um,
And
and also
I think it proved that somebody besides Disney could make a quality animated family film. I don't know if there had been some there might have been some in the 70s and 60s, but I think Disney for a long time still was synonymous with animated movie, and I think this was one of the first ones where they're like, "Oh, other people can make really good animated films too."
right,
yeah, for a while it looked like Hanna-Barbera was kind of coming into that, but they still stuck to the realm of TV because
Right.
there was the man called Flintstone that was
yeah,
released theatrically.
Mm.
right.
And also, I kind of want to go into this small little tangent. It seems like there's this movement going on to kill animation. Like you've heard about what HBO Max has done.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, especially with this whole merger thing. Like they're like pretty much not even going to develop anything that's for families or children shows. Like do people not let their children watch streaming shows or something? Like, what's going on with that?
I don't know. I think
Didn't they axe a bunch of shows too, like
Yeah,
Peacemaker?
they like pretty much killed their whole animation department, which didn't Netflix like axe a lot of their animated content too?
That's what I was thinking.
yeah,
Like,
this is. I don't know what's going on with a lot of these going on in a lot of these CEOs' heads, but I think they're really shooting themselves in the foot if they're trying to court one particular audience.
Right.
yeah, especially with the nature of streaming, there is no one audience. If we started talking about, oh, what TV show are you watching right now? I bet all three of us would be watching something completely different
Oh
because
yeah,
that's just the nature of streaming is there's no water cooler show anymore,
Right.
because of how much content there is out there and what our particular interests might be this week or what we feel like we want to watch right now changes.
definitely.
But yeah, I don't know why anyone would ever want to get rid of animation because it's a
Well, I think with a lot of these CEOs, they don't really watch movies or watch TV or consume any kind of entertainment at all. They just really want to make money, and they're probably good at making money.
right.
And they'll see, oh, this thing make money, so let's do what they did.
hmm I think it's just a shame because animation opens you up to so many different types of storytelling. And you can do things in animation that you could never do in live action.
Yeah, it's I
I,
would say that I
excuse
would
me.
have said that a decade ago, but now everything, the technology has just been pushed so far ahead now.
You know what I think the
Mhm.
direction Star Wars should take is, um, okay, the cinematics for Knights of the Old Republic. Have you guys watched any of those or seen them online? Did you when they came out? Did you see any where they're in the
I have not.
temple and the I can't remember if they're Mandos, but they crash in and all the Sith break out. If you haven't seen it, they're awesome. And these were like opening movies and like cinematics um, for Knights of the Old Republic, and I highly suggest you look them up because there's some great like action in there. But after you watch them, I think that's the direction that Star Wars should take is just lay off the live action stuff and put the money into making the animated movies like they gave us with those cinematics. And you'll understand once you see them. And
Mhm.
these are older cinematics, so just imagine how much better they would look now.
Well, I
And
mean,
you're right, Cody, because you could do like there's stories that I want to see. I want to see one of my all-time favorite spin-off from Star Wars was Shadows of the Empire back in 96, 97.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I remember. I remember there was a
They,
toy line
they had a
of
toy
Toy
that.
line,
line, a video
comics.
game, a novel. Like it was
Yeah.
huge. It was like I
Well,
guess
there
prepping
was
us for not
also
only the re-release but the prequels to come.
Yeah. It was
yeah.
like you're not getting a
Also
movie, but you're going to get all the awesome stuff that comes with the movie. And that was enough. Like that was it. I mean, I had the soundtrack. I had played that video game just religiously. I had
I'm
toy
I'm
line.
gonna
I mean,
recommend that you guys both watch the series that's on Disney Plus right now that's about the history of ILM. I think you guys would enjoy
that's on
it.
my watch list. I've been dying to see that.
yeah, and also there are some Star Wars animated projects that are well loved,
The
particularly
Clone Wars and Rebels
the
series.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's going to say Clone Wars, both what was on Disney and Gendy Tartovsky's
Oh
micro series.
God, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, his new series though.
Primal, is it
Primal.
good?
Yeah. Well, okay. I've only seen clips, but that was enough to have me hooked. So I'm
I'm a huge Samurai Jack fan, so
man, this is awesome. I'm gonna probably binge it soon.
Look, well, actually, I didn't even know about this. What streaming service is it on? Or is it?
HBO Max,
Yeah.
Oh god.
because they
Ugh.
own Cartoon Network. Because that's the show. That's the channel the show comes on. Cartoon Network.
Well, we'll see. Because I mean, it's like, um, God, if CN Real comes back, we should all riot. That's all I'm gonna say. If CN Real comes back, everyone needs to riot.
Yeah, but yeah, this movie, it rules. I would say if it's not the best animated film of the 1980s, it's in the top 5 best animated films of the 1980s.
And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
And
it was that whole big rash of fantasy movies that came out that year and just really changed the game, really made
Take
everybody up their game ever since.
I gotta
take it.
ask you guys a question, and because I just listened to people talk about fantasy, because of course we're kind of in a fantasy boom again. I guess we never left it once Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter came out.
Oh yeah.
But do you think Willow flopping kind of killed the 80s fantasy boom that we had? I mean, a lot of those movies flopped in the 80s, but do you think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back on fantasy for a while?
I'm not
Maybe
sure.
because
I'm not
really,
And
sure.
do
other
you
than
also think
Willow,
because a lot of that content is better suited for television than it is film, and TV just wasn't there yet in the 1980s where it is now?
well, look like compare other fantasy movies around Willow and look at the quality that went into them. Like, okay, Excalibur, big production movie, looks great. Willow, big production movie, looks great. But then you had these sword and sorcery movies that were like straight to video. Uh, let's see, you had Lady Hawk, which was
Uh-huh.
a large budget. You had Dragon Slayer, which was also Disney doing their fantasy thing.
Was that a
Uh,
Disney movie?
that is Disney movie. You had Beastmaster,
Wow.
Conan 1 and 2. You had
Legend,
Legend.
The Dark
Uh,
Crystal, and the Labyrinth.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. Like,
I'm gonna say no because
Okay.
there were other fantasy movies that came out around the 90s. The one that kind of comes to mind is Dragonheart.
Yeah, that's
I liked Dragonheart.
96. Yeah.
That was
But,
that was
but
clever. I always liked um,
but I mean, the fantasy movies we got in the 90s is not as much as we got in the 80s.
True.
I think there was a fantasy boom and there was a Vietnam movie boom. Like,
Well, for sure there was a Vietnam movie boom,
Yeah.
which I don't know if that started with Deer Hunter or Apocalypse Now. I know Deer Hunter came out first,
I
but
would say Apocalypse Now.
yeah.
I mean, there's
which
that
I just
whole
rewatched
cluster
that recently.
that went into making that movie in the first place.
That documentary, dude, we watched that. That was really good. Crazy. Heart of
Heart of
Hearts of
Darkness.
Darkness. Yeah, a
Did you
play
guys
on
know
the.
George Lucas was originally going to direct Apocalypse Now?
I've heard that.
That's crazy. And they were all gung ho and like, yeah, we're gonna go film guerrilla style, and it made me think of Tropic Thunder.
Well, I mean, Tropic Thunder is definitely playing on that trope and like that production nightmare of that movie, right? That's kind of
Right.
the
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also why Tropic Thunder was just so as funny as it is.
Yeah, we watched that here a couple of nights ago. That was still a pretty,
Also the movie that kind of saved Tom Cruise's career.
yeah.
Definitely.
You know he wants to do a Les Grossman movie.
Does he? I
Of
don't
course
know
he
if he would
does.
work as a feature-length character. I think
Yeah.
him as that small bit is part of its charm.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work either.
Yeah. Let's just leave that one movie as it. Let's let it stand on its own. We have way too many franchises as it is, and this is speaking as a person who likes movie sequels. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
just have a self-contained story for a while.
comedy sequels are hard though.
Very.
But yeah, this movie's great. I love it. I think, it might be one of the best directorial debuts ever.
Yeah, it's definitely in my top 5 for directorial debut movies and for animated movies.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's up there. It's like I said, it's in that top 3 for me of the Bluth cartoons.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So,
All right, guys.
what
Well,
are you gonna watch tonight?
Well, I'm gonna be talking the second episode of She-Hulk with Lisa on her Patreon. So I'm gonna finish the last 20 minutes of the misunderstood Ang Lee's Hulk movie because I was just like, I haven't seen that one in a while. I'm gonna give it another watch.
It was ambitious. I will say Ang Lee's Hulk was. Yeah, I actually liked it, but
Hot take, I think it's better than the Edward Norton movie.
but I get a lot of Hulk fans were. One of the big complaints was not enough like the old TV show.
Mm-hmm.
We watched Nope last night, and
What'd you think,
I
Chris?
really liked it. I really liked it. It was different. It wasn't what I was expecting at all. I've managed to go this whole time without any spoiler, so
That's good.
it was bonkers. Every time I think back of his movies, it's hard for me to classify them as horror. He's like a modern day Rod Sterling. His movies are straight Twilight Zone to me, and that's a good.
Well,
thing.
he is doing. He did do a Twilight Zone reboot, so you're not
Yeah,
wrong.
he did 2 seasons of it. Yeah.
So there's a hint of horror. There's a hint of, there's just little hints of everything that just basically makes them feature length Twilight Zone movies. And I don't mean that, to take away or diminish his works or anything, because they're just awesome. But they don't scare me. They're just like, wow, that was weird, but it was like a good weird.
Yeah, actually, I will admit, Nope gave me nightmares.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
I was looking at clouds today when I was delivering the mail. I was watching clouds, but
I gotta say, Michael Wincott rules in the movie. By the way,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I don't know, the way he went out was, or what happened to him. Sorry guys, spoilers. I won't say how, but I felt that was kind of cheap a little bit, because I did really like his character, and I don't know, but it was good. It was good. But tonight,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's his most blank check movie so far.
Right. We watched True Grit a couple of nights ago.
I know, it's so good. We're gonna have to rewatch it because I had to reschedule that.
Which version?
I absolutely
the Coen Brothers
love that
version.
movie.
Okay, yeah.
That movie is just awesome.
Another hot take for baby boomers. I like the remake better, guys.
Oh yeah. I don't think I could even go back and watch the original. Like, it's been years, and I'm just like, nah. I've got the remake. It's great, and it's awesome. But I don't know. I'll probably pick up a comedy or something after Nope. I'm still.
You gotta decompress. Yeah.
I'm still wrapping my head around that
A
one.
palate cleanser.
Yeah, but
I'm just glad he's able to make the movies he wants to make with ungodly budgets, and I hope he gets to keep doing it.
I do too.
I want to ask him what weed strain he was smoking when he thought of that alien. The concept, like.
Have you guys seen the new Predator movie?
Yes.
It rules.
That movie was great too.
Yeah,
I think it might be the best Predator movie. I'm sorry, I think it is.
it is a very solid. It is a very strong one. But
I actually like them 1, 2, 3. I actually like it as a third entry. Like the last two Predator movies were just meh. Like
I kind of dug Predators, the 2010 one with the different people stranded on the planet.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was basically trying to be Predator again, but I like the concept. But yeah, Shane Black's Predator that was not what it should have been.
It's I haven't seen it, but I've heard it is one of his big misses, which is saying something for Shane Black.
I think I drink like I started drinking like at the beginning of it, and then I don't remember the end of that movie. That's because it was just kind of bad. I was like, just take a drink. So I was like, maybe it'll get better if I drink more. And
that is never a good idea.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help a bad movie get good.
I will say this. I am looking for you viewers who probably you don't know much about my personal life, but this weekend is my wedding anniversary. So we already did a tour of the local museums, and tomorrow we're going to go see 3,000 Years of Longing.
Oh, nice.
I'm so jealous. I want to go see it so bad.
Yeah, I hear it's really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, George Miller has George Miller's kind of been on his A game for a while, but Mad Max Fury Road was I mean, it was
that is a movie that was better than it had any right to be, and then it like surpassed it by affinity.
Yeah. I honestly hope he makes a few more Mad Max movies.
Well, he's making Furiosa right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, supposedly there's going to be one more Mad Max movie too. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And but 3,000 Years of Longing is going to be I know it's going to be a trip, but especially since the English class that I'm assisting in, it's a 9th grade English class, and they all just got finished reading The Monkey's Paw.
Oh,
yeah.
Such a good story. Oh.
So I'm kind of wanting to see how that compares.
Nice. Well, speaking of, next weekend it'll be the 2nd and the 3rd. So, what do we want to do to kick off spooky season?
Well, we're gonna have a nice little symmetry. We're gonna stay in 82. It's not the summer of 82. And we're going to talk about this movie again, but that's fine. Nick really wanted to talk about this movie, and it's a nice transition between spooky and summer of 82. We're going to be talking about Jim Henson's masterpiece, in my opinion, The Dark Crystal.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be great. I want to rewatch, so it's been a while for me.
Looking forward to that one.
Co-directed by Frank Oz. I believe it's Frank Oz's directorial debut.
Huh. Well, that's great.
Awesome.
All right, guys. All right. Well,
And for anyone that's wondering why we did not discuss Blade Runner, because I know a lot of people are like, "Why didn't we do a Blade Runner?" Well, we've been doing the films of Ridley Scott. So if you got 3 hours to kill, we did do a Blade Runner episode doing that. Nick, I know you haven't seen Blade Runner 2049, so you want to watch that at some point? I'd love to talk about that movie because I think it's a
Ooh,
sequel.
we just watched that again here not long ago, and that's still just such a gorgeous movie.
I'll put
I
some
think
time in
it's
my
a rare
schedule and
sequel that
give it a
surpasses the
shot.
original.
It's better than the original.
Yeah. Just shocker that Warner Brothers was surprised that in 2017, a movie that was to a sequel that was a huge financial flop was still a financial flop. But the critics were much kinder in 2017 than they were in 1982.
Yeah. Well, then again, didn't Blade Runner like come out with like all these different versions of itself? So, and I think they
Yeah, there's
finally made a definitive version that they're just going to stick with. This is the version of the story we're going to tell. We're going to stick to that.
there was the director's cut in 92 and then all the various different assembly and international cuts. And then in 2007 he did his final cut, which is I believe is considered the definitive version of the movie now.
Well, I will give 2049 a chance. I will let you know when I watch it so we can get an episode in.
Please do, because I hope you enjoy it as much as Cody and I do, because it is really such a
Yeah.
great sequel. And
I think it's amazing that Warner Brothers greenlit 3 huge financially risked legacy sequels, and only one of them proved to be a financial hit. But they're all 3 great movies, and that's Mad Max Fury Road, Blade Runner 2049, and Doctor Sleep.
Actually, I think Doctor Sleep was a little bit more successful, but yeah, that was a sequel that had no business being as good as it was.
Yeah, and from what I understand, like if you read the book, reading it, you couldn't see how they could translate it to screen very well. And not only did Mike Flanagan translate the book to screen, he also combined the Kubrick and Stephen King versions together to make it a sequel to both King's book and Kubrick's film.
Which is really saying something. All right, so it's about time for dinner on my end.
yeah,
Right.
same here.
Happy anniversary, Nick. Enjoy your dinner
Thanks.
and the rest of your weekend. Let us know if 3,000 Years of Longing is another awesome movie for George Miller. And
I'm pretty optimistic.
Chris, go get you some dinner and some rest. You know, it's hard work out there.
Yep, slinging. Somebody's got to sling the mail. People got their mail today, and I feel good about it. So
whether they wanted it or not.
Yeah, whether they wanted it or not. And some people had their gates shut, so they got a pink slip saying they could come to the post office to pick up that package.
Nice.
And I saw lots of doggies and lots of deer and some mailbox lids fell off the hinges. One fell completely off the post. So yeah, it's been a day. It's been a day, guys. So
I'm sure you'll have some stories for us in the future.
Oh, probably. I already have a few. Anyway, guys. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. If and when you do, to our tens of listeners, we love you all. And I feel like we've been gone forever, even though we haven't. And I'm glad to be getting back into it. I'm ready for next week. And if anybody has a show they want to talk about, then let's do it.
All right. As always, it's a pleasure.
Guys, have a good night.
All right.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.